Today I'm going to talk about paddle orientation when we serve. Should it be kind of horizontal or should it be kind of vertical? If you've watched many of my videos, you know I'm a big believer in having this paddle as vertical as we can have it when we're back here hitting on the baseline. Same thing holds true for the serve. As we're serving, I want this paddle as vertical as I can get it when I hit that ball. Now it can't be completely vertical, which would be more like this because my body tends to be in the way. Regardless of how I stand, it's impossible to get it completely vertical. But as vertical as we can get it, the better that serve is going to be, the more consistent it's going to be going across that net. Now the opposite of that is having this paddle completely horizontal. And yes, I understand that if it's completely horizontal, it's illegal. This paddle is above my wrist. So I'm not really talking about completely horizontal, but the closest to horizontal I can get and still be legal, having that paddle below my wrist and everything below my waist or my belly button. In that context, then, this is less desirable than having as vertical of a paddle as I can get. And again, it can't be completely vertical, probably going to be more like this. Here's why. The more horizontal this paddle is when I serve, the more this paddle angle matters, and I have to control that better. So up close here then, if my paddle's out to the side, I understand I can't be completely out here when I'm serving, but that goes more in the net. I get less lift. That goes high and maybe out of bounds. I get too much lift. So I have to think about and control this angle on the paddle more, the more out to the side I'm hitting this serve. If I'm keeping this paddle as vertical as I can get it, then the paddle angle matters less. If it's off, it only goes a little bit right or a little bit left, but in essence will stay the same height over the net. I'm not really impacting the height over the net, and as I'm going to talk about in another video, how to control that height over the net. So the paddle angle matters less the more vertical I am, and the further I get away from vertical, the further and further away I get, the more and more that paddle angle matters. So if you're swinging out here to the side, that's probably worst case scenario because you really have to control the angle of this paddle to make sure that it doesn't impact the flight or the height of that ball as it goes across the net. Another issue about swinging further and further out to the side is lift. How do I get lift on the ball? So the further out here to the side that I'm swinging, the higher that this paddle is, the more horizontal this paddle is. I have to worry more about where's my lift coming from. And there can be a tendency to swing too flat, not get enough lift, and that ball goes into the net, or overswing or overcompensate and get too much low to high, and now that ball goes too high. That issue goes away if I can keep this paddle vertical because, as I'll talk about in a different video, lift and generating lift is not an issue anymore because I'm starting to understand where that ideal contact point is, and if I can hit that ideal contact point well, the lift problem is solved. And that's part of that ideal contact point. And having this paddle in vertical is if I can have this ideal contact point and I'm controlling the height over the net, and I'll talk about this in a different video, then the lift issue kind of goes away. I'm focused on controlling that height and how much lift is on there. Now, if I'm out here to the side, not saying you can't do it, but there's more variables out here than I really want. And it depends on how low to high I'm swinging. Sometimes it's more flat, sometimes it's more exaggerated low to high, and that can vary more. If I'm swinging with this paddle in vertical and I have my hand out here, as I'll talk about in a different video, and I know where that ideal contact point is, then my swing is essentially the same, my lift is the same in general, better so than if I'm swinging out here to the side with this paddle in a more horizontal orientation. Another reason swinging out to the side with the paddle horizontal is not as good is it's less consistent, and you can prove this to yourself. Get a little piece of paper, put an X on it. You can do this at home, put it on the floor. And we'll go through a couple of scenarios here. So if I'm going to serve with my ball way out to the side and I've got this sidearm swing, that's still legal, right? Then ideally I still want this ball in the same point in space every time I hit this ball. So if I can do that, then ideally I could just let this ball go and it would hit that X and it would hit it every time. I think what you'll find out is if you try and do this at home, is that it's very difficult to hit this X on the floor the further away this ball is. So the more sidearm I'm swinging, The result is that ball's going to be in different locations every time because I can't even hit this X on the floor as frequently as if I'm in close with this ball here and this ball down by my knee and I let this ball go. What you should find out is your drop, your ball location is more consistent because I can hit that spot on the floor more consistently than I can the further and further away this ball is from my body. So if you're serving with this ball out to the side in some horizontal position where you've got to reach out to the side and hit this ball, regardless of how high it is, the less consistent you can be to hit that ball in the same spot every time because it's just so difficult to have this ball somewhere out here to the side, let that go and hit the same spot on the floor or have it be in the same spot in space when you hit that serve. One trend or one fad that was going around pickleball for a while, and it just seems like there's a trend or a fad every month. It's like, here's the new hot thing you need to learn how to do. So one that was happening a little while ago was how to hit topspin serves, like out to the side. And there are all these videos about you get out here to the side and you come up and you brush up the back of the ball. For me, there's some marginal legality of that. It's like, did my paddle get up through that ball and off the ball, contact off the ball by the time that this got above my wrist? So from a legality perspective, I was very marginal on that as best. I will show you later on in the series how to hit a topspin serve with this ball in close, with this ball close to my knee, down by my knee, in close, not far out to the side, with this paddle more vertical. So if you want to hit a topspin serve, you can do it the way that I am professing, have this ball in close down by my knee, and we're going to come up the back of that ball. I'll talk about that in more detail in a later video. So I understand that some people want to hit a topspin serve. That's cool. I think it gets to be a little questionable out here to the side about the legality. If I'm having this ball out here to the side and brushing up the back, when does that paddle lose contact with the ball? And is that before or after this paddle head comes up above the wrist? It all happens so fast, it's difficult to tell. And I just don't want to get a situation where people are going, your serve is illegal. I just don't want that to be questionable. I don't want that to be an argument. I want to get rid of that and not have that show up in the game. So if you want to hit a topspin serve, I'll show you how to do that in a later video. How then do we hit with a vertical paddle when we're serving? And the key to that is I want this ball in close. I want to be crowding this ball. If you have those friends who are socially awkward, I'm kind of socially awkward, and they get into your face and they talk to you too close while you're having this conversation, you go, hey buddy, back up a little bit. You're in my personal space. They're crowding you. We want to do that with this ball and have this as close to our knee. So I talked in an earlier video about if this knee's in close, if this ball's in close to my knee, then I'm more accurate. So if I let this go, I could drop this ball on the X more frequently because I have a good reference point. The further away I get, the less accurate I can be. So the closer I have this ball to my knee, and I have one student who I got her started just putting her pinky on her knee for spacing. Now I can't get her to quit doing that, so it's fine, it's good spacing here. So if the closer I have this to my knee, that knee is a reference point. And you can see that if I'm swinging here, that my paddle is more vertical. It's difficult or maybe impossible to swing with this paddle in a more horizontal position, whatever that horizontal position is here, if that ball is in close to my knee. I just don't have room to do that anymore. Holding this ball close to my knee, paddle's back here and I swing forward, so it forces me, it requires me to have this paddle in a more vertical position. Again, it's not ever completely vertical. It's off on an angle a little bit, but it's in close. And if I can minimize that angle, if I can work to get this ball as vertical as I can get it, then that gets rid of the whole paddle angle issue and whether that ball goes high or low. It just goes a little bit left or right, but how far I'm holding and where I'm holding this ball will help me control the height of the ball over the net. So if we want to swing with the paddle fairly vertical as we can get it, the key then is I'm going to hold this ball as close to my knee as I can without hitting my knee. I've hit my knee a couple times, doesn't feel good. And so then you go, I don't want to do that again. So it forces me to focus down here, holding this ball in close. As I swing through, then my paddle is going to be as vertical as I can get it for my serve. and that is a more consistent paddle orientation to have when we're hitting these serves.